I have actually started coming back to some old tunes recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I feel like coming back to them I'm kind of ready to come back to them now.
Yeah.
Not necessarily from that session. It's interesting. Like the beat, I'll send you some. Been like starting to re-recorded one the other day. Just in a different way. Somehow feel a bit clearer on them.
Wow. Well, it's been a while, isn't it? Although, is this one of the ones that you've carried on playing through the whole solo thing, or one of the ones that never?
No. Yeah, just started like looking back at the big backlog of tunes that never been put out, and like starting to kind of tackle that mountain, and slowly coming around to it. It's like having a studio. Oh, this is my studio.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's on my list of things to talk about. Studio. Yeah, where is it? Is it in? You're not in your house. It's not part of your house.
No, it's in Mummy and Daddy's house.
Oh yeah, cool. Amazing.
So like 100 meters up the road from our house. I'll just unplug my hard drive so I don't lose all my work.
That's about the same distance as my studio is from my house as well. What monitors have you got?
Is it PCM?
Oh, PMCs, mate. Nice. They're pricey.
Yeah, PMCs. Yeah, that's it. Hello.
Nice. They're posh. Well, cool. How's it sound?
Yeah, good. Ollie gave me, kind of permanent loan these baffles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like...
Nice, man.
Dead. Built a big storage bit.
Got some good curtains, got some carpet in there.
Nice dry drum sound.
Great.
Corner. Getting some nice mono drum sounds, and bought this mic. It's an Electro Voice. It's new app, but they're really great dynamic mics.
I've seen those before on drums.
Reporters. Really good all rounder. It's omnidirectional, so it just like it's got no proximity effect.
Do you know what it's called?
Electro Voice 635A.
For all the geeks out there, I keep forgetting this is for a podcast. Great.
And yeah, it's wicked because it's really close, and it's a really open sound, but it's dynamic, and you can gain it right up. And
nice.
It's not nice for vocals as well.
So it can do a room, and it can do guitar or whatever.
Yeah, man.
Great. Electro Voice 635A.
Yeah.
I bought a couple of mics off my friend, but I haven't used them yet. I thought I was going to get into some stereo recording, but haven't had a situation. So I bought a couple of stereo pair of Rhodes. So I don't know why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But I might move them on because I'm just not using them. Okay. Something like an omnidirectional would be much better, just to capture. I
just like something that is, dynamics just don't intimidate me, and I know that you can just gain them right up, and kind of like it's like a posh 58 that's omnidirectional. It's like reporters use them to shove in front of. It's like that. What do you think about this kind of mic?
No comment.
It's great. I've been enjoying that. Getting some cool mono drum sounds, and mucking about with that. Just one mic, drum sounds, and
that's the kind of I love that. Have you been doing any drum sessions for the recording, or is it just for your own library stuff and solo stuff?
Just for own stuff. Did a session the other day with The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, and we made a tune, and I edited the video together for this festival that's happening. It's like Viva the Rock magazine festival. That we were supposed to be playing at, and everyone's like Arthur's got himself sorted with Pro Tools now. Jim's like remote engineering him, and
I saw a thing on Instagram about that. That's great. So he's recording himself.
Yeah. Well, Jim's dropping in on the session on Zoom, and recording him, and it was good. It was like the first collaboration. To everyone recording in their own studios. It sounds great. I'll send it to you, man.
I'd love to hear it. Yeah, that sounds awesome. This new landscape of recording.
Definitely getting into the longer view of, everyone's got to, it's kind of like adapt to survive, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I was going to talk about that because, I want to talk about a few things on that subject because I recently on Saturday night, I think it was, Friday night or Saturday night, I went to a online adaptation, a live online Zoom version of a live show that happened called Party Skills for the End of the World. It was great. They nailed it because they had the social aspect. You could interact with them. When you went to the Zoom thing, they had like 50, 60 people there. So they did 2 nights, so they made a couple of grand, it's not too bad. It was great. And it was very exhilarating. It sounded great. And you had like Echo DK in the middle of the screen, like playing live, and it was just like punk disco thing. So yeah, you kind of left feeling like you'd been to a performance, you'd been to something that had been stage managed, that had as a narrative, but also as interactive, and reminded me of your Zoom gig. I was actually dreaming last night of gigs because it's coming back into my psyche as a person, as a musician. Is like I've transitioned so much into being a producer. And always thinking about the songs and the recording and all that, but I'm a guitar player and a musician. I haven't played. I'm just really, really not regretting that decision, but I've not listened to that part of my musical brain for so long that I feel like I'm losing it, and I don't want that to happen. Even though it's not like I'm going to start a fresh band and try and do that whole thing, but just having the experience of creating on a stage with someone else or a band of people just is something that's like, it's been absent. It's been absent for pretty much everyone, hasn't it? But
yeah,
it will happen. It comes back
again. But it's like, I feel, it will happen again. Been lucky to have a few recording sessions. Did a little thing with Daniel Clark the other day.
Oh, nice.
Coming out this week, actually.
Great. What was that? Is that for something for him?
Yeah, it's on with his stuff. We filmed it before this lockdown. Like a kind of web series of local Devon performers in Totnes at the Barrel House. We did a little duo thing, which was it's just good to play with other people, live.
Yeah, Dan's amazing as well, isn't he? So live. You and Dan are very similar in that you thrive on a small stage or in a kind of intimate setting where you can talk to people.
Sure, but both of us have been in heavy kid world, so it's like you kind of pop out of it, and whilst you're doing the actual music making, you're kind of remembering who that part of you is. Like those muscles are waking up whilst you're actually doing it. So yeah, I think like I'd definitely done more playing than Dan had. So he was quite nervous about it. It's like just waking up those muscles, which are totally there, but it's like it's those performing muscles and those that kind of air pressure of performing live is a totally air pressure, isn't it? To like playing in your living room and playing a song in your head, basically. If you're just sitting in your house playing on acoustic guitar, kind of singing quietly to yourself, that it was quite brutal for Dan, actually, I think, to be coming out of that cocooned space. But it was really good too, but it's like I think there's going to be a lot of that after this.
Oh God, yeah, there's going to be loads of that. I think there's going to be a lot of just tentative relearning it and rediscovering it, and And it's great. That's almost that excitement you get when you're seeing a new artist and who's not totally quite in their stride yet, and that energy of just having to focus and being a little bit scared or a little bit like, oh, it brings something new to a performance, brings something extra to a performance, I think. And I was dreaming about literally that exact feeling. No, I don't have these kind of dreams normally, but maybe it wasn't a dream. I was lying there before I went to bed, just picturing what it's like for someone who's in a band, you have a big audience or a big enough audience to create a big noise in a room, and just know that that's going to be an hour of keeping it together, playing the right notes, you know, because largely what I do as a musician doesn't require me to learn parts, because I'm not playing in a band that's doing something over and over again. You have to get it right. I'm in a studio where you can fuck it up, play it again. I can write a part in the moment and it goes in the recording and it's done and I move on. That's not solidified as something I've ever got to do properly. So a big part of gigging and going to be in a band is learning the shit, putting your fingers in the right place every time you do it. Listening to some live albums recently as well has made me just think about that a bit more, because realizing that those guys who do live touring and live bands, they get so good at the muscle memory side. They can go to any part of their instrument, know what's going to happen, because they've been doing it over and over and over again. They're playing material that they know extremely well. And my own music exists in more of the improvisational space where you're not really doing that. But I think there's I'm going to try my best to try and get back into learning stuff again.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like actually learning how something goes and playing it and having to get it right. Because knowing that's something to do with that air pressure you're talking about.
Absolutely. Well,
got to get it right.
A good conversation about this the other day with a mate, Ollie, who's also a great musician. And he was talking about running, because he's been running with a group of mates. And we were talking, he was saying like that when they're out running, they're not really talking to each other, but everyone's kind of, you know, and there's like a group of runners with really different aptitude and different ability, and they're kind of like saying they're really change, you know, some runners that are really good and some others, and when they're running up a really steep hill, they were listening to, you kind of listen to each other's breathing, and like they get to know when someone's really struggling, and like, you know, everyone slows down without even talking about it, and the more they're doing it, the more in tune they're getting. And he was like saying, is that, you know, do you think that's something in our genes from like when we were hunter gatherers, you know, that you like that kind of pack mentality and people taking the lead and supporting other people, and from that, like I don't run, it's something I exercising is something that I'm shit at, because I haven't developed those muscles, but like my muscle pathways are developed towards that kind of connection in a band, in terms of getting on a stage and knowing who you're playing with so well. You know, yeah, you've got tunes that you play, but you've done so much groundwork that it's like it's beyond cerebral learning. It's not, you don't have to talk, you don't have say what's going to happen next. You know, everyone knows like people's physicality and like where people gravitate towards, and they understand instinctively where someone wants to go, because you've played together, like you say, in that air pressure a lot. Like when playing with Charlie Winston, we're really, you know, I toured with this guy Charlie Winston in Europe for about 4 years, and when we started out, it was really, you know, it was kind of like employee band relationship. He told us what to play there, and we played it for the first 2 years, and you know, a band vibe developed under that. Yeah. But in the last 3 years of it, the band turned from a 5-piece into a trio, and we made a new album, and then the album wasn't going to come out for a year, so we had a whole year of touring, like playing headline festival shows with that material as a 3-piece, and that was for me really amazing process in terms of like forming that kind of physical learning as a band, which is like, it's beyond all cerebral. It's nothing to do with, it's like just in your muscles. And we did a whole year of playing without a set list. Like, you know, we didn't want to have a set list, and you know, Charlie had loads of songs.
I think the best bands don't have set lists. Or they have one that's worked out literally 2 minutes before the gig or something like that, you know. Anyway.
Sure. Yeah. And we ended up, it was a really interesting process because there was no pressure of like the album being out and people knowing the tunes. So we were exploring it in that air pressure of the performance place, like to 10,000 people or something. We were exploring it together with those people, and like that built new muscle pathways. We were like,
totally.
It was really cool experience. And then when the album came out, we ended up in the end, we did have like a set show because it needed to be set, but it felt right because we'd explored it so much inside it that it didn't feel limiting, you know, because we'd already had a year.
We had pushed it quite far out, wherever it needed to go, and then you could contain it and, you know, retain the elements. You had control of the energy in it, I guess.
Yeah, but also what had happened in that year is that, like, you know, Charlie has a lighting engineer, Charlie has like stage crew and stuff, you know, and they're really used to having a set list, you know, so they know which guitar to pick up next and to hand to you, and the lighting guy knows which song's coming next to set his patch, you know, and press the button so that it happens at the same time and has the impact on the audience. But for a whole year they didn't have that either, so like
everyone created this big sort of organic,
and then so like that physical like intuition was spreading out into the people around the band as well, which was, that was fucking cool.
I wonder how. Sorry.
Why I was talking about this, but it's like the air that working in that air pressure so that you become it's like a normal thing. It's not a heightened thing that makes you freak out. It's like
it's part of the process.
It becomes your habitat.
It's also that's the way you step into it as well. It reminds me of a couple of books that you should definitely read if you haven't already. I've just finished reading David Byrne's How Music Works, which is an absolute must to read. I was going to ask, well, I'll mention what you're saying reminds me of in that book, which is the bit he talks about CBGBs and talks about how a particular venue and a particular scene and a particular city and a particular time all played into this idea, it played into the genesis of how these bands actually formed and developed. So having a venue that was small, with a small stage, with a crowd that were really intimately there, and the layout of CBGBs was contributing to the type of bands that played there, but also the development of those bands, because you could go in there with half a set worked out, but you're literally standing right next to the drummer if you're the singer, and everyone's got very strong eye contact, and you can see the guy's face in the front row and see whether he's digging it. So the way that a band starts to develop their sound, like the Velvet Underground and Talking Heads and all these kind of bands, they hone their sound in a small environment for many years. When they were playing these big shows on bigger stages, they had enough muscle memory and enough confidence and enough time spent in the small environments where they had a very immediate reaction from the crowd, and they were right next to each other, to suddenly the guitar player and the bass player are like 20 feet away or whatever, the drummer's right at the back, and you've got lights in your face and all that. And they didn't have any monitors back then, so everything's sort of separated. Yeah, how some bands, how a lot of great bands, you know, including yourself and Charlie, you had those smaller shows and you had experience in smaller settings. All that, when you're saying he's doing headline shows, suddenly it must have felt different in a sense of physicality, having you know, you're at the back playing drums, but the keyboard player, whoever, was really far away rather than right next to you. But you still got the muscle memory.
Yeah, totally. But also, like, there's no reason on a big stage for anyone to be like miles apart.
No, but it happens, doesn't it? It happens because of
like there's no reason for it to happen, you know, unless you have the physicality to fill that space. It's like we always set up really close to each other.
Oh, there you go. Fair enough. Yeah, that's good. That's probably shows some sense. A lot of sense.
Sounds like I mean, why would you want to play 20 meters apart from each other? Like, unless you're, you know, unless that's part of your plan, unless that's like your vibe of your gig, like Metallica or whatever, you know, when you see
it fits in. But when you see like Talking Heads stop making sense, for example, which was a big show, they, you know, they're spread out, and that's a particular example. But also Nirvana, you see their early shows in big places. Kurt didn't play in the middle of the stage; he played on the stage left. So there are three pieces really far apart, and like you can think of loads of examples. But those bands who had cut their teeth in smaller, very small environments and understand how to read each other. Big. Sure. So, but you're completely right. You don't have to spread out on a stage. I think it just happens because of lighting rigs are set up in a certain way, and maybe the monitoring side feels right there, and it's I don't know. But how music works is a fantastic book for really exploring that. And also, I'm reading Bob Dylan's Chronicles at the moment, and his interesting concepts of having what his relationship to his songs were and his various breakthroughs he had. Anyway, yeah. I'm rambling now. Good books to read. Very much recommend.
Yeah, I haven't read the David Byrne one. I've read the first volume of Chronicles, which is feel quite dreamy. Like it's like you're never sure what's real and not real with Bob Dylan, and that's the way he wants it to be.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like, yeah, he's still like shape shifting and just running away like a shadow.
Yeah, I like it. He's talking about this vocal technique that he's learned when he kind of got excited, and he learned this technique from a jazz singer about doing melodies and triplets. I haven't quite figured it out yet. I'm going to do some more research into what it is, but talking about literally he was going to completely quit and do nothing, and then he got really excited because of this particular technique, and then he busted his hand up. But it's funny, it's just like thinking about the journey of a solo artist like that, how he was the thing that made me think, fucking hell, that's weird. Not weird, but quite different, is that he met a producer, or one of his producers was like, we should do this particular tour with you doing this new technique. Don't worry, I'll find the band. And it's him going, oh, that's great, I don't have to find the band. Like, how would you feel about someone finding you a band? You're like, all right. I mean, obviously they're going to always be a good band if you're Bob Dylan, but it must be quite a strange separation.
Yeah, I suppose it's a different mindset. Like, I don't know what, I get the impression that Bob Dylan's kind of you know, he feels like a real in the moment guy with making the music, and that his focus was definitely on the words and ideas. That he wasn't someone who was there thinking about like, no, oh right, yeah, the drums are going to go like this. It's like I've written this feeling, and I'm saying this, and I need the right feeling behind what I'm saying. And
yeah, he seems to talk a lot about in the book about how everyone else's expectations and ideas of him, like what he's running away from, because it's not true. You know, getting introduced on a stage to do a big show, and the person introducing them would say something like "the voice of a generation," or someone who enjoys not being in the limelight. It's like, fuck off! What are you talking about? You've just kind of created a cage for him to live in. But also going and working with the Grateful Dead, where they were like, right, we want to play this song, and he's like, I only sung that song once.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I did it once in the studio. It's on the album. I haven't played it since. And you're like 30 years later, you want me to kind of do it now? God.
Totally. And I think that's probably true of everyone who has written something that has become bigger than themselves, and that means something to millions of people in their own lives. It's like,
God, yeah.
There's a point at where you go all right, this isn't mine anymore, and I'm going to give the people the one that they know because that means what it means to them in their lives. Or you go, no, this is mine, and I do what I like with it, and fuck the rest of you, which is what Bob Dylan does. And I think
he did a bit of it, but he didn't have the fuck the rest of you attitude. He had a, it's okay, they're my fans, they can take it attitude. It's like, not screw them. It's like, well, no, they're going to come and see me. I'm going to do what I want. They can handle it. He's not like assuming that they're going to be annoyed. He's like, they'll get it. It's fine.
Yeah, sure. But
maybe the critics is saying, fuck you.
People go to see him play now. And I think that I heard that Paul McCartney thing with Adam Buxton, and Paul McCartney was saying like, yeah, Bob Dylan is brave, man. Like his songs are literally, and this is Paul McCartney saying this, went to go to see him live and I can't recognise his songs. Maybe you recognise one line of it, and Paul McCartney's there going, yeah, and I'm kind of stuck between the two worlds, but I very much err on the side of being an entertainer and giving people what they want. And it's, I suppose it would be whether you feel trapped by that or whether you enjoy it. And there's plenty of people who just enjoy, like, if they made the record how they wanted it to be made, and they really enjoy the sound of it, and they enjoy how it goes, and they know that it goes like that, and they don't want it to shift. They would enjoy just giving people that over and over and over and over again, because it gives so much like energy.
I don't think I could be in that kind of band. Not that I have ever had the choice, but just I've thought about it a lot. Touring, playing the same, not touring at a small level where it's still fun, but touring again and again and again. When you see bands that have got a 250-date tour, you're like, fucking hell, what? But it is what it is. I've never done it, but if my imagination of what it would be like, it wouldn't suit me in it at all as a musician.
Well, I think,
but in the right band, if like certain bands who have been huge, even the Chili Peppers, who are not into lately, but their sort of ethos is always keeping a lot of space in the songs to jam and lots of jamming and stuff. So I guess they keep it interesting as part of their makeup. But God, I never liked the idea of it.
Sure, but
maybe it's a small tour where it's fun.
Like also, how I've never had it happen to me. I've played with people that have hits, and there's something amazing about starting a song that everyone knows, and the whole crowd goes because it's like they're tapping into their association with that song, and it's bigger than anyone.
Is that when you were playing in Coldplay?
Yeah. And when I was playing in Mariah Carey's band as well.
I liked it when you were playing in Cher's band, because when you start playing Believe, the crowd just went crazy then.
When the
and you weren't even playing the drums, you were controlling the auto-tune thing, weren't you?
Totally, yeah. That was the buzz every night.
Yeah, you could literally change the pitch of Cher's voice with a fader, and you had to get the perfect, you could believe in love, blah, blah, blah. You had to get it exactly right, otherwise the whole crowd would be like, boo, high pressure.
Although, yeah, I don't think, as long as it's fucking great, and it doesn't seem like a snub to people, I think you can do whatever you fucking want.
Yeah, man. Well, that whole I never saw Charlie Winston. That's the kind of thing, because everyone, we've talked about it before, I think, but he's not really got a very big presence in England, and you've always had to play overseas to get the big shows, I guess, haven't you?
I don't think that's where it like hit home for him. I think his initial stuff resonated in France with people, and his kind of personality, his way of doing things he kind of wooed the French public from all sides, and
right.
And won him over. His first record was #1 overnight. Like,
wow.
Sold 3 million albums in France.
Did he do anything in French?
No.
Interesting.
But he wore waistcoat and a hat at a jaunty angle, and
they love that shit.
And he had this character of the hobo, which was, you know, it's like this well-dressed hobo that kind of backstory of, you know, like sleeping on people's sofas and being attracted.
Having a character.
Yeah, it was a character. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that kind of thing? An invention that's not you, but some version of you, or something you can step into.
Only to the point of having a band name, not calling it my own name. Yeah, but not actually having a character. It's funny, like playing with Arthur Brown and Charlie, and they're two different people. Like Charlie, after his first album, tried to throw off his character, and it hasn't been so successful for him. And he tried to kind of like, take back what was not his to take back, I would say, and turn quite a few people off. You know, like you create something and it becomes bigger than yourself.
Yeah, that's like if C6 Steve suddenly showed up in a suit and tie.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not a hobo at all, you know. So it's all a fake story, but
totally.
He can't come out of that ever.
Sure, but people don't give a shit whether it's real or not. You know, it's like once it's out there, it's like a newspaper headline, isn't it? It's just like that's what it is.
I think that's really great. I think it's an exercise in marketing more than anything, isn't it? If you've got the right messaging going out. I love Stuart Lee. My favourite comedian is Stuart Lee, and he's not Stuart Lee. You know, the character of Stuart Lee that he does in all of his material is not him.
Yeah,
but it's so well executed in such a convincing way over such a long time. He's allowed the other version of himself to develop alongside himself.
Yeah,
he hasn't ever tried to take it back. He's tried to make people understand what it is and self-refer to it and deconstruct it. So it's really, really good. I can't think of any bands who have done that, but I love the sense of. I mean, I've thought about if I ever do my own live show as a solo artist, which will be Champion Fever or something I've kind of created that isn't Steve Baker, I will do a character, but not spoken. I mean, I haven't ever done it, so it'll be a whole new thing as someone who's getting a bit older and maybe just doesn't give as much of a shit about anything.
Yeah,
my images of doing something live with my music wouldn't be a band playing it, so I don't want to be on stage on my own with a laptop or doing that rubbish. So I'd have to I thought about what theatrics could I do, or whether I'd even need to be on stage alone. Maybe I could have some in it. But then how exciting must it be to be backstage and go, right, here's the character, I'm going to go and do the thing. And knowing it's an invention.
Yeah. And really freeing in like, it's funny, like with Arthur's relationship with his character, you know.
Arthur Brown.
Yeah. This is Arthur Brown. It's like understanding your character in a way, and like having lived with it for that long, you know, like nearly 60 years or whatever, the God of Hellfire, and being able to understand it, to use it, and still use it to explore with, and all the questions that your character throws up, like, and he definitely doesn't feel jaded with it because from the outset, it was something that was freeing for him. It wasn't limiting as a thing. It wasn't like, didn't have, you know, hard edges, and he made something that could go fucking anywhere, and also means utterly different things to everyone who sees it.
Yeah, and it kind of it provides a narrative. Yeah,
to everyone, you know, and it works on so many different levels. The God of Hellfire, it works for like people who have that dark heavy metal like head on them, and it works for people who have a more spiritual head, and also just people who think it's funny. And
and it's just a visual show, and it's, you know, it works. Yeah, you got seeing him do his thing at, was it Festival when I came and filmed it? Oh, you weren't doing that gig, it was Raon. But yeah, I remember seeing it, you know, such a variety of people in the crowd at Festival, because it's a young festival but does still attract a certain amount of older people. And just seeing like Arthur in his 70s doing this stuff and seeing the audience of young people, and just groups of teenagers just like having a great time down the front going, what the fuck is this? Like, whether they were there because they knew who he... Sorry, what was that? What?
They were there waiting for the Chuckle Brothers.
I met the Chuckle Brothers backstage. It was exciting.
Yeah, man.
They recorded a little video for me for my girlfriend at the time whose birthday it was. I got them to record a skit. I said, can you just say happy birthday to my girlfriend? They did a whole song.
That was so mad because we
I forgot you were there filming, weren't you? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like Arthur playing, and the tent was half full, and then the Chuckle Brothers come on. The power of 80s TV, like bang, there you go. There's a whole ironic crowd of fuck people on MDMA. Like absolutely full tent, just going nuts on this like celebrity nostalgia of seeing the Chuckle Brothers.
I wonder whether they were actually a good performance though. I didn't see it because we were working and stuff, but like I wonder whether anyone went there with just a sense of irony and but actually had a really good... Because when I went and saw Bruce Forsyth at Glastonbury, I went there with the like, I really love, I love Bruce Forsyth, but obviously you love the character of Bruce Forsyth. He's very authentic in a way, and you feel like he's been on telly your whole life. But I was like most people, let's just go and see him because it's a national treasure. But the gig was fantastic. The ironic thing was lost underneath a fantastic big band sound, some really great mic technique and some good audience participation stuff. So people were just like, wow, I wonder if the Chuckle Brothers actually did a good gig. I don't know. I wasn't watching it. Whether it's...
I wasn't watching it either, but yeah, I don't know what their roots were. They probably, they might have been amazing, like comedy duo performers on stage that got pigeonholed.
Got a TV show.
Kids entertainment. And it's interesting actually what you were saying about Stuart Lee, just going back. I was listening to his podcast with Adam Buxton yesterday.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, not yesterday, but I listened to it. Yeah.
And he was like you're saying, his character going alongside his actual personality. He was saying about Frank Skinner said to him when he was younger that your body doesn't fit your act.
Yeah.
And now he was like a cantankerous old man in a kind of presentable young man's body, but now his body's caught up with his act, and
especially now.
What does he look like now?
Mate, go on. If you've got Now TV, it doesn't matter if you haven't got Now TV because it's really good to get a free trial. But his documentary just came out last week called King Rocker, and it's about the Nightingales. And it's the one, I think he was on all these different podcasts to kind of promote it. But really, really amazing film. Excellent. You'd love it. From a documentary perspective, it's fantastic. And Stuart Lee's ability to have one set of narratives, one narrative tool informing another and juxtaposing things, it's marvelous, but super low budget. And I didn't know anything about the Nightingales before that. I was like, well, I'm going to watch it because I'm coming at it from the Stuart Lee angle. But it's on Sky Arts on Now TV. Really great. And if you watch that, you'll see what Stuart Lee looks like now. But he's also been, he did done quite a lot of promo for the film. So he's been on, if you go on YouTube, you'll see him doing live. I think the Idler, he did a thing with the Idler on YouTube where he's talking, they're about, quite long form conversations. But yeah, he's great. And he's also, he's had quite bad hearing loss as well. So he wears hearing aids. He's put on quite a lot of weight. He's got a beard. He looks like who he is. He looks like the real Stuart Lee. But when he does his stage show now, I imagine the beard will come off because he still needs to be sharp. He still needs to have a sense of being slightly better than everyone else as the stage Stuart Lee. Whereas the real Stuart Lee looks like the kind of bloke who'd walk past you in the street and you'd be like, oh, he looks like a sweet bloke, doesn't he? Yeah. And he is a very sweet bloke.
He was saying interesting things about that. I suppose about that thing of finding where you operate the best and accepting it, and then finding all the space within it. Like he was saying about being a stand-up comedian, like, oh yeah, as long as there's a microphone in the middle of the stage, I can do whatever I want, and like the using genre as a a mask to like get through your more serious points, you know, like if which is yeah there's some really interesting things I thought, like
he's got such a clear and whole 360 like global understanding of himself, where he's been, where he's at, where he's going, how he's been received, what it means. Like so whenever you hear him interviewed about, and obviously he's invariably being interviewed about his work and what he does, he could just go into it and just give you a whole sense of context without feeling like it's just this like, oh, I'm talking about myself and me. He's like, yeah, no, this happened because of this, and I wanted to make, you know, yeah, it's just very clear. I really get a kick out of hearing people be clear about what they've done and how it works. I listened to a podcast by Alec Baldwin called Here's the Thing, and I recommend that podcast. But he had one. I generally skip to people I've heard of first because he talks to a lot of people I've never heard of. But the most recently, I think yesterday or the day before, I listened to him talking to Mick Fleetwood, and just hearing Mick Fleetwood talk about it, his path and Fleetwood Mac and stuff is really great. Just, you're like an old guy, he's been through a lot, had a massive career, but can still talk about it with a sense of clarity and succinctness and understanding and humbleness. I love it. But that's why I like Stuart Lee, because of that reason.
Right. Podcasts
And Frank Skinner and Adam Buxton.
Yeah, I've definitely.
You've been having time to get input.
A little, yeah. Having an internet radio in the kitchen is really good. Having time to, like, we couldn't get internet in the kitchen for a while, and now we got a booster, and
right
now we can get like FIP, you know, French.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Again, like having a radio station that is just playing constant eclectic music, like that thing of turning on the radio, not knowing what you're going to hear.
Yeah, I love that.
Which I think, I don't know, I can get quite ranty about it, but I think that should be a basic human right. It's like, that's kind of what I like about turning on Radio 3 or like classical music or something that has like podcasts as well, like long form thing that you don't know what exactly you're going to hear, and the conversation might take a turn. It's not packaged, and it's not made, and it's not what's the word, prescriptive,
yeah.
Like, I really feel like when you listen to commercial radio stations, like especially Heart FM, it's the most.
It's the worst.
Like it just assumes.
It's so assumptive, isn't it? The audience is just dumb. It's dumbed down. It's just dumbed down.
Yeah, and it has a sound, like a prescriptive sound. Everything sounds like this, and we assume that you're driving to work at this time.
We've got a family. You're
having lunch, and you know they've done their market research. They're just playing to their crowd. You know.
Yeah.
Like Trump, but it's not. There's no freedom in it. It's a thing to hold you where you are. It's not something that opens doors for you. It's definitely not made to open any doors to any new worlds, which is like the fucking medium of radio is like.
Well, that's because advertisers want people who are in a certain box so they can sell their products to them. You know, makes total sense if you can keep things in a certain world. Podcasts, generally the sponsors are there. I guess the sponsors are like, okay, we know these kind of people listen to the podcast, we'll chuck a sponsorship in. I think people, I certainly don't begrudge adverts in podcasts because you have an option, because the format, you have the option to skip them. So it's fine. I guess you can't skip live adverts.
But also, you know that those adverts are the things that keep the interesting stuff coming.
Yeah.
How people are making their living by, you know, like Adam Buxton that's what pays for his
dog food.
Yeah, and whatever, you know, the ability to keep making interesting stuff that keeps opening fucking doors into interesting worlds for you.
Yeah, he's such a good podcaster.
Don't begrudge advertising in that sense, but
my life changed my mornings changed after I changed my morning station, my radio, my alarm clock. Start again. My clock radio in the morning is an old school alarm, goes off and puts the radio on. I don't do it at the moment, but it used to be Heart FM because I hated it so much that I would be forced to turn it off and then I'd be up. Like, shut up. But I changed it to a local station called Planet B. Shit, have I got that right? Planet. God, I can't believe it. I think that's right. I'm having a brain freeze. But yeah, it's a local Brighton independent radio station run by young people, and there's not really any talking. It's just Platform B. Find it. It's really good. And they play some amazing music. And I don't know, I never know what any of it is. The radio comes on and it's playing something groovy, and I'm like, cool, what is this? And it's a bit like FIP in the sense that it's just continuous.
Yeah,
an occasional audio logo, but you never know what anything is, and it's you know that it's young people doing it from Brighton. Like, great, that's who should be controlling a lot of the radio. Is just the youngins.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
Cool. But actually, a tune that I played on popped out of FIP the other day when we were having breakfast. Great. Felt like it fell out of this whole random thing of like, oh, I know this tune. Oh yeah, wicked.
What was that? Blue States?
No, Izzo Fitzroy.
Oh yeah.
Played drums on her record that came out last year. How the Mighty Fall, it's called. She's a really good soul singer.
Right. Yeah, I went and saw her. Did I see her in Berlin? I can't remember. Matt Ware was playing a show in Berlin and we went along, and I can't remember if it was her or whether it was someone else who was playing with. And then we ended up getting really drunk and wasted with the band and out in Berlin. That was fun. But she didn't go. I don't know if it was her or whether it was someone else that Matt played with. I've forgotten now. Anyway, cool. That must be nice on FIP. That's like a life goal. Having music come out of FIP.
Yeah, hearing your music coming out of the radio, music you played on is great. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, like, with that, talking about Zoom and like gigs on Zoom and stuff earlier, I do think that there's definitely really good places to explore in that. You know, like if you think of it in one way, it is TV, and production value wise, it can go as far as you want it. You know, like
it's about the audience, isn't it? Because it's about you've got to create some sense of something going on rather than what you get when people are standing with a beer looking at you on a stage. You know, it's a whole different category, isn't it? It is TV, like you say, live TV.
And you can get way closer than an audience could to you, you know, and much more exploratory in some ways if you plan it and work with it, and also get the sonics right. But also, there is no substitute for. You know, personally, I feel like I don't want to do loads of it unless it's really good and inspiring for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be in front of a computer all the time, just putting out content for the sake of it. It's like,
no, it's just
when I do it, I want it to be a thing that makes people feel good rather than just adds to like homogenous, you know.
I know you're absolutely right. Yeah, but it's interesting. I'd like to whether there's something we could do maybe, but I don't know. Like based upon the duo thing that we've done before, whether there's something, I don't know whether, like, because obviously we do it remotely, whether that, I don't know what the lag is and how you get things synced up.
Well, I'd say pre-record it. Like, I really like that tune that we did in the Tour to Nowhere, which I actually did a little, had to do a little film about for like this arts project that was a little bit like what you were saying earlier, like giving people ideas aimed at like 11 and 12-year-olds.
Okay.
But, the whole brief of it was that artists should kind of showcase what they do and then give an idea of what people can do in their own home. And like my whole film was about exploring, you know, using your imagination in your own home and like the Tour to Nowhere and what happened with that. And and then I just, look at under your table and use your imagination, let your imagination run wild in there and make a little short film. And I ended up making like a puppet show with a sieve and a saucepan, and it was really lo-fi, but kind of like finding
button moon.
Yeah, like it's like zooming in on your space and finding worlds within it. But the music I used was the tune that we did for the Tour to Nowhere.
Oh, great!
I really like that tune. I want to develop it.
Yeah, what was that? Just me playing?
It was me playing kitchen percussion.
That's right.
And I had a whistle, and then you play guitar on it, and I kind of faded you in.
Yeah, I remember. I only saw it when it went out on the YouTube. I haven't seen it again since. Is it on YouTube still? Did you do it as a live?
Yeah, it's on my website as well. Like it's in that series.
I'll go and find it. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Send me the track if you've got it, the audio.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, that was well fun. I'd love to do loads more of that. I mean, it's so easy to do. I've got everything here, and I've also been doing stuff with my 4-track. I've been doing ambient music. I've been doing loads. Yeah. I'll tell you a bit, to talk about my own stuff a little bit for a sec. I decided, I don't know, it kind of partly might link to what you've talked about as well in terms of how you put stuff out and how regularly you put stuff out and in what way. So I think you've talked about whether it's with me, and I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but doing something on a subscription basis or having something where you're not just putting an album out, you're presenting work in different ways to different people. I can't really get that thought out properly, but I had an idea which is stolen a little bit from the Gorillaz.
Yeah,
who are doing episodes. So I'm going to do episodes. I'm starting to plan them because as a solo music maker, I've got my production that I do for other people, but I also write stuff for myself. I also do house and techno stuff for nobody, because I'm mucking about with the equipment and it's coming out with ideas. I'm writing stuff that I hope would be more for songwriters, etc., etc. So I'm going to do a Steve Baker Sound Presents kind of episode thing, which is what Gorillaz are doing. They're doing Gorillaz Present. And they're doing episodes, so they can. Oh, it's not the same as Gorillaz because it's a band that are doing it. But I'm going to present probably 5 things in an episode, might be more, but they can be anything that I've made in any project or collaborated with over the course of whatever time period. So I can find something I did 5 years ago, or a random thing, present it in an episode that an episode's kind of maybe has a narrative. I'm not decided if it's going to be a narrative yet or not, whether it's just going to be a collection of things that sound similar but yeah, going to put it out as a podcast, put it out as a Spotify playlist, put it out as a sort of little package of stuff. So someone gets it and it's like, oh, what's going on in this episode? And it can be a piece of music that I made whenever I made it for whatever reason. So what do you think?
I like that idea.
So it's not an album, it's not something. Yeah. It's sort of got a non-linear way of doing it because you can pick stuff. It's like you're saying, going through hard drives of old stuff, like, oh my God, what am I going to do with that? It's like, what? I'm thinking, I'm doing exactly the same thing as you, going through tons of ideas that I'd either never finished, but they're not songs in my case because I'm not a songwriter, so they're pieces of music. So it's like, what do I do with that? Do I finish it? What even is finished? Do I send that to someone else to do vocals on? Do I reframe it as a soundtrack? Do I try and put visuals to it? I'm doing a whole load of stuff where I want to team up with poets. So I want to talk to you about that offline. We mentioned it a little bit, but having a shared Dropbox folder of music that gets put in as stuff that would be good to collaborate on a poetic sense, and have someone like yourself who's really good at writing poems dip into that Dropbox, listen to a piece and go, oh, actually, like that fits with some words I've got, record the words in your studio, send them back, and then we create. And that can be something that happens once or regularly, but it doesn't happen. We don't have to make an album of it, because that's quite a big thing. It's like, oh no, we made one of them. That can go in an episode. Here's a track that I made. Is that like kind of presenting stuff in that sense?
I think that makes a lot of sense for someone like you, who is always having, a lot of ideas, both musically and also in the kind of presentation of music. And likewise, actually, I tend to, I think it's quite easy to feel like you're, when you have loads of ideas like that, it's quite easy to feel like you're failing at all of them, because you you can just stack up a big long list of ideas and go, fuck, I'm not doing any of them really well. And I like the idea of an eclectic episode in which, like, if you've got a backlog of stuff, you can create a world for these random bits of stuff to sit in.
Yeah.
Which is, I think creating a world for stuff is really important, so people can dive into your world and appreciate. You're not. So then, and also then, you can be as eclectic as you like, because you're not trying to separate it and market yourself as all these different things.
Well, that's kind of the point, really. It's kind of saying, like, you if someone listens to it, they get the sense of someone like a curated radio show, or like someone who says, "Can you do a DJ set of your favorite music?" And they'll put something together. People like to have that sense of, what's going to happen next? It's going to have that energy to it, like a flow of, like, that's why it's going to be, the hard thing is going to be planning it, but also, like you say, it's not a sense of having to package stuff up and go, I've got to create a band name for this, and I've got to create some artwork, and I've got to do a release schedule, and blah, blah, blah. It's just, but yeah, anyway, carry on.
That's just your creative output as an artist, and it can encompass all of that, and you don't have to like separate it into little boxes and try and market it to different worlds, which can feel, for me, it's like, I think I'm realizing, like, everything mashes together for me, whether it's making film, poems, in a live sense. I like joining it all up, and when it's all in one place and there's an audience there and you're doing it to them, it makes sense. But when you're at home going, all right, so this is my album, and then maybe I'll do a poetry thing, but it's like, and trying to think of ways of putting them all out. I think it's great, man. Like,
it's a breakthrough. I took the idea, I combined it with a couple of other ideas I already had, and it's just going with it and making it happen. And because you're someone who comes from it from a different perspective, so you've got a background of being an artist and being, much more active in the world of playing music as well over the years. I'm coming from a place of turning the output that I've just been doing, because it's what I do anyway. Like, I don't have a choice about whether I make music or not. I just do it. But because I've not ever made it about me, and I've never been in a band that's toured or done anything that's been released, it's like, now's the time to put that stuff out in a framework that sort of says, look, this is what I've been doing. It doesn't really matter whether it's selling or whether it's got a brand or whether it's got a fan base. It's just, here it is. Episode 3 has this stuff in it, and I can talk about it, and maybe a small amount of people from that will go and start enjoying a particular part of what I do. And we'll see. I'd love to do some poetry stuff with you, where I've got sort of soundscapes or bits of music that would work so much better if there was a spoken word aspect to them, or a narrative over the top. Whether you're up for doing some more of that. We did one of them, and it hasn't quite finished it yet. Sorry, the clicking. Stop the clicking. Put the pen down. I'd like to do some more of that stuff with you if you've.
Yeah, man. But I think, like, what's good about this is, like, we always have that conversation. I'd really like to do some more of that stuff with you. That is utterly open-ended,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That's like no obligation, just an urge to do more stuff, which means that urge can always be put on the shelf for me.
Yeah.
But if you were saying to me, I've got this episode coming out, and it's got this bit of music on, and it's coming out on this date.
Yeah, do this by that time.
I want a poem on this bit of music. Do this by that time. I can then take it or leave it. I can say, oh, sorry, I can't do that, or I can do that, and it's like, it becomes a much.
It's tangible.
And it's tangible and it's clean, because otherwise you end up with all this, like, unfulfilled urges to do stuff into the future, which I have that with loads of people. We're all saying, oh, we must come out for dinner sometime, which I've hardly said to people fucking ever in the last 2. But I have been guilty of saying that a lot. And, you know, there's people that you connect with fleetingly, creatively, who you say, oh, wouldn't it be great? But unless one of you says, just give me a fucking deadline and say, this is the bit, and it's coming out on this day. And then it's like, great, there's a framework.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It plays out in so many different ways. That thought of actually having a tangible plan and a deadline. The whole cliche about deadlines get things done, and also knowing what something actually means. I've been meditating on this lately, and also becoming more in tune with the part of my personality which is into organising and which is into setting things up, because that's become completely inactive. I haven't been an organiser or a planner outside of my own little things for so long, and I realised it's something I used to do quite a lot. So actually going, right, well, I can do this, and I can create a sense of this is going to happen, and just try and reactivate that part of my mind, which is a bit more of a leader rather than going along with things and hoping things are okay and just keeping things nice, you know. Be a bit more bold, but it's all part of it's all in the plan generally.
Yeah, you could use snippets of like your podcast conversations with other people in that kind of thing. Or I think that's the one thing I would say is make sure that it's not that you don't that you keep it open, like, so people to interpret the music like in the way that they want to, and that you're not kind of owning it before you play it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's important so it's like what goes between the music gives people, like, supports it but doesn't own it. You know? Yeah,
that's a good, very, very, very insightful.
If you're going like, yeah, I made this tune when I was feeling shit and it's about this, here it is, then you've already locked people out. You've already locked their imagination out of it.
Yeah, I'm not so keen on doing that for this. It's more presenting without having much. There's not good. I mean, I might do a little. I probably will do a little podcast that talks about it, because the complications of making a podcast that's got music on it and stuff, it will probably be a little something that people, if they want to listen to, they listen to. But the actual episode will just be music, or just be music and poems. It won't be a side narrative of telling the story of what it is. Just be like, this is the thing that's going out, and whether people listen to it or not, who cares? But there might be a sense of some people tuning in for an episode then going, actually, I like that episode, I'll check out the next one. Whether it's going to be very hard on me to try and work out how to schedule it, but as a producer I'm doing mixing and recording, and I'm doing a whole package for other people, songwriters. I also want to start to try and, you know, when I say to someone I know who makes music and writes songs, I'm like, can we work together in that way? Like, we can create something together, but is there anything you're working on that's sitting there that's like nothing's happening with, that you're like, oh, I really need to finish it, send it over, you know, see if I can help with it.
It's also for you as a producer, like, there's the whole thing of producing other people's vibes, but like, you know, like and talking to like Paul Butler from the Bees or whatever, you know, he got his producing work. He was like producing Michael Kiwanuka and Devendra Banhart and all these people, and he just co-produced the new Andrew Bird record as well.
Great, yeah, it's a great record.
But it was the other way around for him. You know, he's not selling his production skills onto their vibe. It's like people coming to him because they love the vibe of what he made.
Like, that's starting to happen now, which is good. I don't advertise, so people find me and they're like, hey, I've got a little advert running on Gumtree, and people kind of message me from that. But people from that, generally people have read what I've said and gone, have resonated with what I've said and gone, I like what you said that you do. Can we talk about working together, rather than it just being like me waving a flag that says, I'm a producer, I can help you out, I can do. It's only me. I haven't got time to deal with the people coming in. But luckily now I've got stuff out there that I've done. People can go, oh, I like that track that you did for that artist. That's great. You know, it's working out. And
this episode thing, like, you know, the ultimate calling card, because that's your world. That's your, like, you know, world as a producer. That's great.
Yeah, that's the other concept I had around doing it, was to try and, I was thinking, I want to put out something regularly that people could hear what I'm doing, but that means I'm going to have to try and finish a lot of stuff, put out an album. And I was like, wait, no, I don't. I can do episodes, which are snippets. But yeah, great. I'm glad you think it's a good idea. I wanted to run it past you, and I will be some more specific with the poetry stuff, because I had the same conversation with my friend Louisa, who's a really amazing singer, writer, poet, all-round kind of creative mind, and we're really good friends. And we've done a couple of things together, but very subtle, very under the radar. And we've been always talking about stuff. Yeah, we should do some stuff. And it got to the point, like you were just saying, exactly the same. I said no. It was me this time saying, right, let's do a Zoom on this day at this time for an hour, and we'll work out in that call what we're going to actually do and how it's going to work, what it's going to look like, feel like. And even the Zoom call started to get a bit, what time is that going to happen? Is it, oh no, can we try tomorrow? It's like, no, let's work out a time and date, and we're going to do it at that time. I'll be there at that time, rather than, oh yeah, cool, I'll give you a shout. We'll sort the Zoom out. I'll give you a shout on Wednesday. It's like, no, on Wednesday at this time, we're doing it. I wasn't being that bullish, but it's like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
And then it was an hour, and we made loads of notes, and we had a little plan, and now we know what we're doing. So anyway, yeah, I'd like to have it. It's very right about that.
It's kind of I feel like there is, if you're constantly not honouring that intention, it turns into disrespecting that intention. And that's actually all you do with that intention, is just disrespect it.
Yeah, and it could affect your soul.
Maybe.
Well, it's true. It can. A lot of stuff to do with the psychoanalysis stuff is if you've made a promise to yourself and you're not keeping it, that eats away at your sense of self. And I've suffered from that. So that realization from reading and meditating and learning about what's going on in the mind and stuff is and how to kind of get a better connection between your authentic self and who you feel you are and what your plans are, and does everything kind of align up? Because if you've got a sense of where you should be and where you want to be, and it's not aligning with your actions, then it creates dissonance, basically, which you might not notice, but it does over time. It exhibits stuff. So you're right. It all feeds into that sense of making a promise to yourself, even if it's just an idea. Having an idea, in a way, if you really think it's a great idea, it's a promise to yourself that you're going to do it. Write it down, make it happen. So yeah. That's hard, but it's got to happen, isn't it? It's got to happen. It's difficult.
Yeah, well, but that's what creates new muscle pathways. It is like what we were talking about earlier, physical learning of stuff. It's like, okay, that's my idea. How do I turn that into a muscle pathway of like build it into what my muscles do? And I feel like I've done that with, starting going, yeah, I'm going to make films. And like massive gap between the intention and the actual reality, and I'm like feel like have definitely been building those muscle pathways over the last couple of years by doing, and like now being able to kind of join up my expectations and realities with it. Same in music. It's totally ongoing. It's like your expectations of, it's like joining up your expectations with the physicality of doing, and knowing what physically happens in that arena, so you're not like disappointed by what comes out physically. I feel it's
well, don't do it. My way out of that for the future is just collaborate. Even though that would have happened a lot more this last year or whatever without COVID, I had a plan already or a goal. Get out there more with more people, do more stuff, set stuff up. Because it's coincided with the pandemic. So, but yeah.
I suppose the good thing about the pandemic is that, the people that really want to have now set themselves up to collaborate and have setups at home. Many more people do, because like if you want to, then it's adapt and survive, isn't it? It's like, so the tool, like there's way more tools out there now.
Oh god, yeah. I'd love to hear some of the stuff you're working on, man. If you've got like sketches or anything, it'd be great to hear. See where you're going with it.
Yeah, and we've got to finish a tune, haven't we?
Love to. Yeah. What about? I mean, there was I think the main issue with it was that you hadn't got lyrics. Is that
Yeah,
right?
generally the last thing that ever comes.
I've got the track, so I don't really want to take it any further until we've got proper vocal on it, and then when the final vocal's in place, it's like, right, we can finish it now. So by next Tuesday,
fuck off.
Here's a new thing I've learned, because I'm reading a book, or an audio book called Atomic Habits, which is a really popular book about how to sort your life out. And one of the things is habit stacking, which is if you want to develop a new habit, stack it on top of a habit you've already got. So if you want to get really good at, let me think of an example. So my example is yoga. I've always had a desire to get into yoga, but I don't like the idea of going to a yoga class. Maybe I'll have a breakthrough and I'll do it at some point, but it's still like, today. But I have to do exercises for my back and shoulders for my osteopath. So I was given a set of instructions that were by someone external. These are the exercises you've got to do. So I stacked yoga on top of that habit. So I developed the habit from having to do it, which is stretching for half an hour and doing these certain movements. So the habit stacking was like, well, I've got that habit already. I'm just going to stack doing yoga on top of that. So when I do my stretches, I just do 20 minutes of yoga afterwards. I haven't got to separately deal with the idea of like, oh, I've got to fit yoga into my life somehow. And it works great, man. And you can do that with so many things. If you want to learn, if you want to do emails, if you've got a bunch of emails you've got to do that you hate the idea of doing, but you've got a bus journey that you have to do the emails on the bus journey. You like stack that habit onto that habit kind of thing. That's a bad example. But anyway, yeah, it's good. So stuff like building a wall between two rooms, you can stack a habit on top of that. Write lyrics for a song whilst you're building a wall. We've been talking for nearly 2 hours.
Cool.
Love it. I love it. Thanks so much. Really great to hear your voice, see your face.
Yeah, thanks, man. Lots of love, man.
Lots of love, dude. Have a great week. And yeah, catch you soon, I hope.
Bye.
Hey, man. Thanks again.